Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I'm Lucas and welcome back to another league racing video here on F1 2021. And yeah, hope you're all having an amazing day. Thank you very much for tuning in. And yeah, we're here for Spa round 3 of PSGL F1. And yeah, let's just jump straight into the action. So we've got full qualifying as always, and here we are just jumping into the session, and we have rain forecast for a stage in the race. As you can see now, 30 minutes into the race, as I say that in exact harmony with myself in the past, but there you go. But yeah, that's definitely going to play a factor into the race, and also on how we approach qualifying with the strategy on the tyres, etc. But anyway, without further ado, let's jump into the first run of qualifying. Now, I wanted to try and do as little runs as possible, realistically. I didn't want to do you know, too much running. Wanted to try and keep my tyres, you know, keep the options on the table. So yeah, here we are, 8 minutes left on the clock just on Q1, for hopefully what would be, you know, ideally we were hoping to just do one run on the soft and that would get us through. So starting off the lap, we had a relatively good turn 1, heading down into the Les Combes chicane, braking just around the 50 metre board, braking very late, taking 5th gear, using inside curb, which is very well, dangerous, but also critical to get lap time. Holding 6th gear through there, up shift to 7th, down into 3rd gear, trail braking our way through this long right-hander, dipping downhill a bit, now into no-name corner, flicking it in, getting a bit of understeer, so we're very hesitant on the throttle, having to upshift to 6th as well, so not optimal through no-name in any way, shape or form. 7th gear through pull-on though, committing really hard high-speed section. After high-speed section in this stage of the track, braking as late as we can, into 5th using a lot of the curb on the inside. Again, really risky because these curbs can spit you off, but you need to sort of commit to them, and that's how you sort of get away with it. You have to lean into it, and yeah, nice and smooth through there. I believe it's a 12.0 on our split, so it's been a respectable enough lap. It's been clean, it's not been anything, you know, over pushed. That the aim was just to try and do as clean and as smooth a lap as possible, and that should be hopefully enough for us to get through. Braking quite late into the chicane, but I think we make a mistake here actually. We get the curb there. Yeah, we didn't get that good an exit. It wasn't really so much a mistake, but we just never really carried as good speed. But that did put us fastest in the session for this moment in time. Jarno, and then, well, Jarno shortly after that beat us, and then a few more people beat us towards the end of the session, with the track evolution and stuff like that. So, yeah, comfortably through into Q2. And as you can see now, we are on the mediums with 8 minutes left in the session. So, you know, remember that rain that we saw in the forecast before the race? Well, that's why I'm on the mediums. I want to keep my strategic options open, and the reason I'm going on the mediums this early in the session is so that I have time to respond at the end if I need to set a lap on softs to get into Q3. So yeah, a lot of strategies being played out in this session. Some people going on the mediums, some people going on the softs. So yeah, very interesting to see. And yeah, heading into this braking zone right now, should be alright, nice and smooth. Just trying to, we haven't done much medium running as always. We always sort of just jump in blind, so it's up to us to sort of adapt and drive. Something I enjoy quite a lot. So yeah, just trying to keep it together. A little bit snappy there, nice and getting the curb hooked up. I cannot speak today, but yeah, heading round. I believe we've got pull on, nice and smooth. Yeah, just trying to keep this lap nice and tidy. We want to just get it on the board. Plenty of curb on the inside. Again on the left, holding 5th gear that time, a little bit hesitant on the steering. Down to 4th, never really hooked that apex up that well, not really optimal through there. But it looks a clean enough lap, it's not been a total disaster. So the hope is that it's good enough to be quicker than other medium runners. And that should hopefully allow us to go into Q3 on these mediums. That's the objective. So yeah, heading into the final stage of this lap, we had Cedric on the inside, which was not ideal, and it wasn't a very good last chicane in any respect there. So we did a 40.7 fastest medium lap in the session at this time, and yeah, we are now just hoping that would be quick enough in the mediums. But here we are on 24 seconds left in the clock, and we have, I believe, just 2 or maybe 3 cars behind us. So we have it calculated in our head that if we were in a certain position by the as you can see now, the end of the session, that we should be okay. And as you can see, we are P5. So we will not need to sit this lap. We can now back out, as we are going to do now. Back out the lap, get ourselves through to Q3 on that medium, and the strategy is now looking quite good. So yeah, not too bad at this point in the session. And yeah, as you can now see the results, we ended up quite quick on the mediums again, so not too bad heading into the final stage of qualifying. So yeah, top 4 guys as well on softs as well. So we have a good we have a good mixture of strategies in play between medium and soft. So where we qualify, and we're heading straight to the last run as well. This is our fastest lap as we invalidated the first one, but this is the one that was majorly going to count, I believe, anyway. So heading into turn 1, not ideal. We never got enough. Well, we never really drifted enough. We just sort of semi-understeered our way into that corner. So it was a normal start to the lap, let's say. And yeah, we know we've got enough speed in us to get pole position. There is zero excuse not to be able to fight for it, so it's up to us to do a good enough job heading down into Lake Com. Very tricky. We did really well here in the pre-season race. We take a lot of curb, so we got away with quite a lot there. And yeah, now it's up to us to try and hook up the lap. Holding it down into 3rd gear. Double upshift. Let's see how we get on through No Name. I don't know, just not feeling the 100% confidence to push the car, just not having, not that we didn't have the confidence in the car, but just not really extracting every last little maximum piece of speed out of the car, it feels. It looks a clean lap so far, but I can tell when I'm driving it's not been the smoothest, the cleanest, in terms of like carrying the speed and stuff. So yeah, not very good through there either. We never carried good speed. We're on a 11.7, which isn't the best split. So we've got a lot of work to do in this final chicane. The lap hasn't been as quick as I want, considering we're also in Q3. We have more grip, so we need to ideally be doing a better lap than this, because I have no idea where this is going to put us now. So heading into the final chicane, getting the curb hooked up alright. A relatively okay exit and crossing the line, and that put us P2, and we're not on pole position. We are not really happy with that at all, because we definitely had more in the tank. So that ended up putting us P4 though, so we are still in play for the race. But I was really disappointed with myself, because I knew there was well, there was more on the table, but that's just purely down to us not doing a good enough job. You know, you've got to accept it, learn from it, build on it, and yeah, apply it in the future. So yeah, our pole time from the pre-season race would have been good enough for pole position. So yeah, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth not to do it again here in PSGL, but you know, the main thing is that we are in play for this race. 5 red lights coming on your screen right now, starting in P4, the top 4 on the medium tyres, and it is lights out. We have Frederick Rasmussen, Yanni Tormala behind us on the softs. We trying to get a very good start, quite neutral off the line, diving as wide as we can through turn 1 just to try and keep the momentum. And we have Frederick Rasmussen on our inside. We need to get the power down. We deploy as much ERS as we can. We've got to get in the slipstream of Nicholas Longy. It is absolutely critical for our race to try and stay ahead of Freddie, because if the soft runners start getting in the mix, then we are going to struggle later on in the race. So we really need to hang on to as much as we can, using as much ERS, trying to commit to the outside. Nico moving really late, which was really sketchy there, really scary for when we had to brake. So yeah, heading now, thankfully ahead of Freddie, down into the middle section of the lap. And yeah, right up behind Nico as well now at the moment. I was quite confident with my race speed. I mean, we never got it together in qualifying, but I knew my speed around this track's quite good. So the confidence was still there. I had the, you know, every bit of belief that we could still win this race if things go our way. So yeah, heading on to the latter stages of lap 1. Freddie's still on the attack on those softs. He is really wanting to get past us, and I can completely see why, because he's on the softs. He needs to get a move on. We are really hustling the car, trying to make sure that we are, you know, staying in contention, trying to keep close to the cars in front. You never know if they make a mistake or not. And yeah, looking behind us now, Freddie gets a massive tank slapper coming out of, I believe it's Stavolo. I'm not too sure if that's the corner name or not. But now heading down into the bus stop chicane for the first time in this race. Everyone deploying their ERS. Nicholas Longy having a look at Jake Benham moving to the right, but then he crosses over the line in the brakes. We go into the back of him, and as you can hear, we are really unhappy. And Nico has went into Freddie. He has spun. Freddie is now out of the race, and we are really annoyed at this point, because there was nothing we could do to avoid that. Safety car has been deployed, and yeah, a chaotic start to this race. There was not really anything we could do there. We were already under braking, and then unfortunately Nico changed his line. So yeah, it's a shame, but you know, we're now under safety car. Jarno Opmir into the pits, which was quite surprising because I would have thought he would have wanted to stay out until the rain on the medium. So he's pitted for softs, everybody. So here we are for the safety car restart. Now up to P2, miraculously, after all of this chaos. And right in the lead ahead of us is Jake Benham. And yeah, the chase is on. So he's going a bit wide into the chicane on this safety car restart. And we know that Jarno is quite far down the order at the moment. But we know what Jarno's like. He will be through in no time at all. So it's really up to us to crack on and try and work with Jake. Because, I mean, it's really, really difficult on this game to pull away from someone unless you have an incredibly massive pace advantage. Most people can just sit in your DRS, so what we want to try and do is work with Jake, and here we are up the inside. Jake was not putting up a fight, and that is us into the lead of this Belgium's Grand Prix. So now it's up to us to try and work from this stage. You can see us weaving to try and work with Jake to try and optimise our pace, because we know that other cars even will maybe filter through on their strategies. So yeah, let's crack on into this. Well, we're on lap 8 now, because no one overtook it. It's very much status quo, I believe is the saying, to this point in the race. We're on lap 8, and I don't know if you can see, but it's actually started spitting with rain. The rain was very minor and very slow in progression. It started to get a tiny bit wetter every lap, so it made it quite tricky to predict, but here we are in lap 8. We have got a good gap to Domenico Lavetti behind us, and as you can see now, Jarno Opmir on those softs up to P5 now, so he's working his way through. Those softs should in theory work quite well in these tricky conditions. They'll be able to hold good temperature, so it's now up to us to work with Jake just to optimise our race, optimise our pace. But as the conditions got wetter, I still had a very good feeling. Like, I felt confident. I felt like I was struggling maybe a little bit less than perhaps Jake and others around me. So yeah, the confidence was still very, very high at this point, because for all I know, it might not rain hard enough to go to intermediates. So at worst case, we pit for soft, and we would be doing it from, as we can now see, back in the lead of the race. So that is us up to now P1 again, as the track, as you can probably visually see now, we are slower and slower every lap going through these corners. The grip is getting less and less, and to be honest, my confidence at this point in the race was really high, because I felt really good in the conditions. The car was working pretty well. I might not have felt 100% pushable in qualifying, albeit that was mainly down to my own fault as such. But yeah, it seemed to just everything start to click a bit more in the race. We've pulled away a little bit from Jake, but as you can see, Jarno up now to P4, not scratch that, make that P3 on those softs, so he is continuously charging. But Jarno's softs won't last forever, so his tyres will die. So to be honest, I wasn't too worried about him like steaming past me. So it was just sort of just trying to measure myself bit by bit as this race went on. Now onto lap 11, and yeah, looking behind, they were 7 tenths back, now they're 4 tenths, now they're 3 tenths, and they are both blasting their ERS, Jarno and Jake, trying to pass each other. So the power of DRS is actually really strong as well in this game. I mean, that's something else that's really, really prominent, I feel. This year, it's just incredible how quickly people can close on you if you don't touch your US, for example. But anyway, lap 11 now, Jake and Jarno, the two cars behind, Domenico Lavetti dropping back a little bit. And yeah, on to lap 12 after the Lecombe chicane, and Jarno Opmir, if you look at the up at the top of your screen, going up the inside of Jake Benham on those softs, up getting the inside line, and yeah, getting ahead. So that is Jarno up to P2. It is now myself and Jarno in the top 2 positions on our 2 different sort of strategies. We've been on these mediums since the beginning from qualifying, and Jarno has been on these tyres since lap 2 effectively. So yeah, Jarno's tyres won't be too pretty at the moment, but yeah, it's now just up to us to try and drive as best as we can. On board now, I believe, for this entirety of lap 14. As you can visually see, the track is pretty wet now on these, you know, and we're having to lift through. It's really wide, nearly getting invalidation, really pushing on, but the confidence is really high. We've dropped Jake Benham, he's now 1.8 seconds behind. and we're blasting the ERS because we don't really want to lose position to Jarno, because if it does go to rain, then we want to have track position, because that really makes a difference. So yeah, there we are, lap 14, and now it's on our minds of when do we want to pit and what do we want to pit on, because the rain was getting heavier and heavier, and we knew it was going to go away. We had the engineer telling us the rain wasn't going to last forever, so it was kind of a split decision. Like, what do we do? Do we go on inters? Do we go on softs? Because we would have to go on softs, obviously, to get to the end of the race because of the tyre choice. So we had a big snap there as well, but as you can hear, we're talking with Shinaka about the strategy during the race. But yeah, lap 14 of 22, not long left. We could easily pit to the softs on right now to get to the end, but yeah, it's a tricky call right now. We've actually gapped away from Jarno a bit, so we felt pretty good in these conditions, but the thing is, the grip is so low at the moment. Yeah, as you can hear, the Jeff is saying 10 minutes, and yeah, now we want to box. Now, we obviously had the pit selection on intermediates from earlier in the race. Now, we are going to make someone crashed here, but we make the instinctive call to pit, and there's a safety car on the exact moment we pit. So perfect timing here. So we actually had the pit limit activated there, but into the pit box now. That was the best timing of and yeah, we now want to select softs, because there's Jarno as well on softs, so we try and select softs now, but the game stops us! And all of our hard work,
just put me on hards.
All of our hard work in this race has just been potentially ruined
before I even got to the box.
And you can hear we're really unhappy about that, because
no,
yeah, it cut the selection from the tyres very, very early in the pit lane. Like, we weren't even remotely close to the pit box, and we were just 2 clicks away from softs. And yeah, it slammed us on hard tyres. So yeah, don't really know what else to say to that, but let's focus on the race now. We are in hards. We are doing everything, as you can see, burnouts, weaving to get temperature in these tyres. The hards barely can get temperature. We know we're going to be a sitting duck, so we just have to put up a biggest fight as possible. But the track, thankfully, I suppose, is now drying, so they made the right call to go into slicks, but we are just not on the right compound of tyre. Not through our own choice, put it that way. So here we are, weaving as much as we can to get temperature in the tyres, and what you guys can't see as well is a lot of the field went on intermediates under that safety car. So they're all going to have to pit again, because the track is drying and we don't have many laps left. So I'm just trying my best to try and not give Jarno an instant head start. But here we are, we pull the trigger, we actually get a very good release. But unfortunately for us, we might have 4/10 now, but that's about to disappear instantly because, well, the hards are useless. So we've done a good job this race. We've led it. In fairness, I was way too late in moving there on Jarno, so that's completely my bad. I moved really too late on that straight, but it was a bit of an inevitability now that Jarno's just going to come steaming past us. There was no point in us, ruining his race. We were never going to hold him back unless we, wanted to crash. So yeah, he's on the outside now, but there's no way we're going to even remotely be able to outbrake him. Heading into Lakecombe, and that's Jarno into the lead. We are on hard tyres, and what you're about to see as well, everyone, is how much we lose on these hards in a few corners. So from being side by side into Lakecombe, we're now heading down this downhill section into No Name, and Jarno is already, well, let's exit of No Name, and Jarno has nearly a second on us after a few corners. So these hards have well and truly ruined any chance of us winning, and considering we led most of the race, it's a bit of a, well, it is a kick in the teeth, because it was a really good race up until this point, but that's just the way racing goes. Small things, make a huge difference. And well, I say small things, the hard compound tyre. But anyway, cracking on with this race. Jarno's completely up the road now. We are just focusing on ourselves. Now at this point, I was really worried where we were going to finish. Obviously I can't think about too much of it, but I knew that, well, the odds of a podium didn't feel that great. Jake here, we weren't really going to do anything that was going to cost us more time. He could just steam round the outside of us. There's no point in us overfighting this. We have no grip. Jakey has a lot. And yeah, we just try and lose as little time as possible with this. And yeah, as you can hear me say, let's just not lose time. And yeah, down into P3. And yeah, and what you're about to see is the gap's just going to increase massively. Jarno pulled 2.5 seconds in one lap on these tyres. Heading on to the next lap, DRS is enabled, but the cars ahead in just one lap have absolutely disappeared up the road, and I was really worried about the cars behind, but nobody could somehow catch us. I think it was maybe because people were fighting, but I am amazed that on these hard tyres no one was able to actually catch up to us. And in complete honesty, I'm actually quite happy with this hard stint, because I feel like I drove, you know, very near the maximum out of the car. Like, there was very little grip, but I really pushed as hard as we can, and we've only fallen away by 4.8 seconds, and I know that's a big gap, but, you know, we lost so much at the beginning of this safety car window, so, you know, we are now heading on to the last lap. P3, somehow, after this drama, on the hard tyres, you know, it looks like we're going to bring home a podium. And it's going to be bittersweet, obviously, because, you know, the win was very much on the cards. We could have definitely had a good fight for it. But, you know, that's just the way it is. Coming across the line to get P3, Jarno Opmeer wins the race. Jake Benham had a penalty, but he had such a big gap to us anyway, so it didn't really do anything. Jake was obviously aware of this and just pushed as hard as he could to try and win, which is fair enough. And, yeah. What a crazy race. We are obviously, in this moment, incredibly gutted because, you know, for the race to end like that and to lose that sort of thing is, in that sort of way, is really harsh. But that's just the hardship of racing. You know, you've got to, you know, take it as you can, take it as it comes. And yeah, you know, at least we still finished on the podium. We drove a very solid race. Really happy with how that went. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the video. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you guys in a future video. And yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Love you all, and goodbye.